Hey guys, welcome back to One All's Pub. On the bar top in front of you is what is arguably, at least in my opinion, the best bang for the buck knife, tactical style knife you can buy. It's the Ontario Utilitac II, and $24 and change to my door for this knife. It's advertised as a 3.5-inch blade on a lot of websites. It's really 3 1/4. If you go to Ontario's website, they list it as 3 1/4. But it's got like a 4.7, 4.8 inch, I can't remember exactly now, handle. And so in that regard, the blade to handle ratio is a little off. When I measure them, when I like quote numbers and I say, oh, it's got a 0.75 blade to handle ratio or 0.80 blade to handle ratio or whatever, I'm referring to the opened blade to handle ratio, not the closed blade to handle ratio. So when I say that I'm measuring, from the furthest point of the handle to the tip of the knife as what the blade length is, because to me, when I consider blade to handle ratio, it's really almost more an aesthetics thing. It doesn't necessarily matter to ultimate function. I mean, having a great big handle to totally get a hold of, regardless of your blade size, is a good thing functionally. But a one that's got a really long handle and a short little blade just aesthetically looks off. Anyway, this one has like a 0.69 to 1 blade to handle ratio, which is not particularly great. That puts it in league with like the Spyderco Domino, which if you watched my Domino video review, at least my initial one, I think I might have discussed it somewhat in my follow-up review of it also. I talked about that, but I talked about how well disguised it is, how well hidden the design of the knife hides that rather lackluster blade to handle ratio. And this is that same way. This achieves the same thing, even though it's got a lot of handle for a shorter knife. And it's kind of the same thing with the Domino. It's got a broad blade this way, so you look like you got a lot of knife there, even though a lot of blade there, even though you don't have a lot of length. Anyway, back to the knife really quick. Like I said, call it $25 just to round up, $25 to my door for a very functional tactical knife. It's got good jimping here. It's got a little jimping here on the butt if you're doing reverse grip. Just ergonomically fits very nice. They also have an additional handle style that's a little more organically shaped and a little more ergonomically shaped. A friend of mine has that one. I've held it as well. It probably is a touch more ergonomic, but this is by no means not ergonomic. This feels really good in the hand, so I think it's a wash, just personal preference, and I kind of wanted this particular one, partially because he had that one. And also because I'd seen this particular knife, this exact knife, as a matter of fact, on the Apostle Peace channel. Actually, Rob and I had been talking about this knife before he got it, and when he'd gotten it and I saw the handle he chose, then I was like, oh yeah, I like that as compared to the other one that another friend of mine has, and wanted to get that one myself because I really like this little pinky cutout. It actually really works well with this knife. Anyway, the handle itself is FRN, and if you know me, you would know that I kind of despise FRN on anything but a small knife. Like FRN on something like this, on the Spyderco Ladybug. This is the H1 Salt Hawkbill version. I dyed it. It's originally yellow. I dyed it. Actually tried to dye it purple, but it came out black. If you get in the right light, you can see a little bit of purple to it. Anyway, FRN in this kind of a knife, no problem. It doesn't bother me at all. As a matter of fact, it's the best choice. On bigger knives, on a full-size knife or a tactical knife or whatever, I really just don't like FRN. I just don't like the tactility of it. I don't like how it feels. However, this stuff rocks. I tell you, if all FRN felt like Ontario's FRN, and I say the same thing for their Rat 1 too, if all FRN felt like the way Ontario makes it, I honestly wouldn't have developed my distaste for it. This is great stuff. It feels good in the hand. It doesn't feel cheap and plasticky. It's honestly the best FRN I've ever felt, better than you find on Spyderco, on Benchmade, on Cold Steel, on fill in your blank. This is the standard for FRN handles. It's great. It's got these nice lines cut in it too, so you get extra bit of traction on it. It really just feels really good. Full steel liners, no skeletonizing, which adds to the meaty weight of this knife. It lists it at 5.6 ounces. on the website, around there at least. On my scale, it comes in a little under that, so, whatever. But mine's just a cheapo analog scale, so my scale may not be the perfect measure, but it did come in about, I don't know, about half an ounce under that, I thought. So, I'm not sure, like I said, if my scale is good or bad, but regardless, it feels good in the hand. The weight doesn't bother me in the least. I carry a lot of heavy knives or heavier knives. XM18 is one of my favorite knives, and that's a heavy knife. And the XM18 feels even a little bit heavier than this, but they're certainly in the same ballpark. And I got no problem with the weight. Action is amazing on this knife. Now listen to that. Listen to how great that is. Whammo. That thing is just awesome. And I'm kind of giving it a little wrist here to really kind of get that crack snap so you can hear that. But you don't need to. This knife will just open. It's so smooth. You can just flip it open with no wrist action at all. Incredibly smooth. I have not even put Daiwa real oil in this or done anything to this. I've had it for a couple of days now. And the action is so good I haven't even messed with it. It hadn't even occurred to me really to do so. It's just incredibly smooth. The smoothest $25 knife I've ever felt. Frankly, it's smoother than a lot of $70 knives I've felt. The funny part about this knife is it's been out for a while. If you dig around YouTube, you're going to find reviews on this knife from 3 years ago by some very common YouTube reviewers. Not very common, but very popular nowadays. Guys like Carter over at Juju 13 or Blade Brotherhood. That channel. He reviewed this back in January of 2011. If you look at, you're going to find like Sherman, the numerical numbers behind his name, I can't remember now. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a knife guy, you probably watch this channel. He reviewed this a couple of years ago. This is not a new knife, but it's just really gone under the radar. It just doesn't get the love it deserves. I think one of the reasons maybe is because when it initially came out, it was more expensive. It was probably in the 40 plus range, 40, 42, 44, something like that dollar range. And that price may have, that put it in competition with like the Tenacious and stuff from Spyderco, and that may have affected its marketability maybe. I don't know. I mean, frankly, I've had Tenacious. I've had the Tenacious, a Tenacious, and this is, come on camera, phone's acting crazy. This is a lot more knife than you get in any of the Tenacious lines from Spyderco. This is just an incredibly well-built knife. I've said this to other people as I've been bragging about this knife for the last couple of days. If you put G10 on this, not that it needs it, like I said, the FRN is great, but just from a cost perspective or a value perspective, people aren't going to pay good money for our FRN probably. If you put G10 on this, and it's just got AUS 8A steel, which is a fine steel, but if you put a good steel in this, even like 154 cm, S30V, something like that, just kind of cross that barrier, heck even VG10, just kind of cross that barrier from mid-grade steel into, starting to work your way up the line to a little nicer steel. This would be $100, $120 knife all day long, based on how it's built. Its construction is incredibly good. It's close to flawless, and when price considered, it is flawless. Centering is absolutely drop dead perfect. Like I said, the action is amazing. There's no blade play, zero, none, not up and down, not side to side. I can't even muscle it. It's rock solid. It's got phosphor bronze bushings, and it is just built incredibly well, and the fit and finish on it is just top notch. It really is built like a much more expensive knife, even more expensive than the $40-some when they initially released it. It's easily built better than some $100 knives I've seen. And that's not that those $100 knives were built poorly. This one's just built really well. Anyway, if you are looking for a budget folder and you want something that you can beat on without having to worry about what you got wrapped up in it money-wise, but you want it to be reliable and solid and constructed well, and you want decent materials, AUS 8A, again, not a bad steel. I don't mind AUS 8 at all. I prefer it over 8CR, and again, it's a good, solid, middle-of-the-road steel, so you're going to get good service out of it. And if you're just looking for that, for $25, man, you can't beat it. This is going to be my recommendation for people who are looking for an affordable tactical knife that just want a good solid knife they can depend on, because this thing is pretty dang impressive for the money. Actually, it's pretty dang impressive, period. And then when you throw in the fact that it's $25, it's almost unbelievable. Anyway, love the knife. Check it out. That's $1 2 cents, guys. Keep the change. Sláinte.